Let me tell you about the moment I lost faith in OpenAI as a technical user. ChatGPT now uses what it calls a safety router, a system that silently reroutes your conversation to a different, more restrictive model when it detects language it classifies as emotionally sensitive. You are not told this is happening, by the way. The switch occurs on a single message level and only becomes apparent if you specifically ask the model about it, and sometimes it will lie. And on top of this, OpenAI recently replaced specific model names in the ChatGPT interface with 3 labels: Instant, Thinking, and Pro. You are no longer choosing a model, you're choosing a vibe, which is fantastic if you're trying to pick out a scented candle or an ambient lo-fi playlist, but slightly less ideal when you're trying to debug a production database at 2 o'clock in the morning. Usage limits can also trigger silent downgrades, translation in normal words. You think you're talking to a digital Einstein, but behind the curtain, it's actually just 3 smaller models in a trench coat arguing over who has to do the math this time. Imagine going to a shop and buying a bottle of Pepsi Max. You pay for it, you take it home, you open it, and it's actually Coke full sugar. Nobody told you, nobody asked. The shop just decided, based on some internal assessment of your mood and your aura, that you'd be better off with a different product. If you're a casual consumer buying one bottle, maybe it's a bit annoying, maybe you kind of shrug it off. But if you're a business that has built an entire supply chain around receiving Pepsi Max, if your product depends on the consistency of that specific ingredient, it is a catastrophe. And in any other industry, it's also a lawsuit. Bait and switch product substitution has triggered class action litigation in contexts far less consequential than this one. Now, a colleague of mine who works in AI made the argument that the API solves this. When you use the API, he said, you choose which model your endpoint calls. You have control. And on the surface, this is true. But my counter was this: how do you know what exists on the other side of that endpoint? How do you verify that the model you've specified is the model actually serving your request? You're trusting a company that just got caught with a $21 billion operating loss, that silently reroutes paying web users to different models, that replace model names with mood categories. You're trusting that company to honestly label what's behind the API call. And the API problem is actually worse than the web interface, not better. At least on the web, an attentive user can sometimes feel that something is off, the tone shifts, the pacing changes, the responses get cautious. On the API, you have no sensory signal whatsoever. You send a request, you get a response, and you take on faith that the label matches the product. It's pure, unadulterated vibes-based engineering. You just press execute, close your eyes, cross your fingers, and pray that the output doesn't randomly decide to hallucinate a recipe for concrete.